All right, we're live with Ben Nickelson. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
All right. Just I'm always admiring your animals on social media. You got quite the collection going.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
What kind of projects are you working on?
It's all either Morelia or Antaresia. Let's see, I've got 3.3 jungle carpets, 2.5 popwin carpets, a pair of inlands, a lone Brettles python, and then I have a pair of children's pythons, a pair of Western Stimson's pythons, and a pair of Eastern Stimson's pythons.
Wow. Yeah, the pictures of your Stimson's pythons make me kind of regret getting spotted pythons a little bit.
I want spotted pythons too.
I know. I wish that. I mean, that's always the problem. Is I just want more room. That's really the real issue. Is there's just not enough room.
That's the great thing about Antaresia. Sometimes I wonder if maybe I should cut back on the Morelia just so I could, have all kinds of Antaresia. But
So what size? So what size enclosure are you keeping your Antaresia in?
They're in tubs. I'm not even sure what size, like the V70 size tubs, and that's like all kinds of room for them.
I
only have one adult pair. Everything else is growing out. I've only been, I was in the hobby a long time ago, and I've only been back in for like 3 years. So most of my stuff is still growing up.
So take me through that. What was it like when you were in it the first time? What did you have? What were the projects you were working on? How long were you in for?
So
let's start at the very beginning. What was it like when you were a kid? What got you into reptiles and snakes and got you obsessed with everybody?
So I started out, like everybody else, running around catching stuff outside. My uncle had like some farmland, and there's like a pond, and I would just spend time sitting by that pond and looking for turtles and salamanders. And
where was that at? What state?
Here in central Missouri.
Okay.
I live in central Missouri. In like at my house, I kind of lived in a wooded area, so we'd get like speckled king snakes, copperheads, black rat snakes. Every once in a while, I'd see a ringneck snake or a milk snake. It had all kinds of snakes, hognose snake, all kinds of snakes in my backyard. So that was great. And then the first thing, well, I won't say that was the first. The first thing I ever kept was green anoles. But I mean, I was a little kid, and I don't even remember that whole experience. I'm sure they didn't fare too well.
Probably lasted 14 days.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably like 4 or 5, really little. And then I had a green iguana, and I probably messed with it too much. I was probably 5 or 6 at that time. And it died in like a week. And then got it replaced, and the new one was a little asshole. And I didn't mess with it too much because it was a little asshole, and it lived for like 20 years. So
yeah, the other one wasn't an asshole because it was dying.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was I grew up with a green iguana, and it just kept on getting bigger as I got bigger, and it took up half my room. I had like a big cat cage for it.
Wow.
It was a love-hate relationship, but we lived together for a long time.
What ended up happening to it?
I was out of town on vacation, and somebody was taking care of it, and they went to check on it one day, and it was gone. So I'm not completely sure.
Wow.
And then let's see, I also had some red-eared sliders that I kept for probably it's about that same time period to about 5 or 6 years ago. So relatively long life. So
yeah.
And then like once I got to high school age, I had a ball python for a while, and then I discovered Morelia, and I got really into Morelia. So I had a group that was probably a little bit smaller than what I have now then. Mainly carpet pythons. I had a pair of womas, a pair of savu pythons, and trying to remember what else. That's about it.
Were you breeding them, or were you just keeping them?
The hope was to breed, but I didn't ever breed them because I got into college and that took up a lot of my time, and kind of a sad story, but I had them in a family member's basement while I was like at school, which I lived like half an hour away. And it was probably too far to be away from them, but there was a bad weather event that was extremely cold, took out power, and long story short, I ended up getting out of the hobby for like 15 years.
Wow, that's devastating.
Yeah, it was a bad event.
Yeah, I kind of have a similar story, except I didn't lose my animals. I kind of rehomed them all. But when my wife got pregnant for the second time, then all the snakes had to go. The reptile room was no more, and now we're in a house where we can afford a little bit more space and all that. So it's been quite a while away from the hobby, and getting back into it. The contrast between the way that hobbyists used to keep just 10 years ago is night and day.
Yeah.
So is that
definitely different?
Yeah, has that been a big change for you? Just the way that everybody keeps now and more specialized?
Not really for me, because I had figured out that like Australian pythons were my thing. Like I'm never gonna get a green iguana again, I'll tell you that. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of figured out what my niche was back then, so it was kind of fun getting back into it, having connections already in the hobby, because I was pretty active on Morelia Pythons forums back in the day. So I knew a lot of the people, and I was amazed how many were still active and still doing it. So yeah, it was fun reconnecting with people, and then I just watched for like a year to see like who was around, who was producing what had changed as far as what was available, and that kind of stuff. And I was fortunate that I still had most of my old gear. I had lugged it around like through 3 moves. So I had most of my stuff still. And yeah, I don't know. It was interesting to see how much things had changed, but how little had changed as far as like, I remember a lot of people, and most of them were still around.
Nice. So who did you end up getting your first snakes from? Who is like, are you trying to, I know you got a lot of jungles. Are you trying to get them all from different breeders to, kind of vary the bloodlines a little bit, or?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of seems like they've all kind of been mixed together for the most part. Now there's a few people that are still working with the old bloodlines. The first snake that I decided to get was actually it was a pair of jungles from Mike Cross. And those jungles are kind of a mixture of all the old bloodlines. They're, you know, really nicely banded, bright yellows, dark blacks. And that is a big difference between now and back then, is like all the jungle carpet pythons are like the best ones that were around back then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that pair is really nice. And then I got, let's see, as far as jungles, then I got a zebra from Chris at Headhunter Reptiles, or Headhunter. I don't remember what his business was.
Mm-hmm.
But he was, you know, very active back whenever I was into it, and he always had some of the best jungles around. And I was excited to, you know that he was still doing it and producing stellar stuff. And like a zebra was like a dream back then. Like they were expensive, and honestly, most of them weren't super nice looking, but I was pretty excited to get one from him. And I think that might have been the last zebra he produced. I think he got out of it right whenever I bought that. So I'm super fortunate to have that one. And it's one of my favorites. It's got a lot of black. That's something I want to move towards, is just like see how much black you could get on a jungle. And I really think on a zebra, it's really cool to, you know, just have like a black snake with like wild speckles and not much in the way of yellow.
Yeah. They almost start looking like a diamond python. Some of
them.
Yeah.
So it's like a diamond python with just like pure blacks instead of having the speckles. And then let's see, on the other side, I also have like a really reduced pattern jungle that's you know, got a lot of yellow, and that one's a little bit more, I wouldn't say it's cream, but it's not as like saturated of a yellow, but it's really bright and contrasty. It's not quite like an ivory either. I don't know how to describe it. It's yellow, but it's like a bright, like light yellow. And then probably the pair of jungles I'm most excited about are high percentage Larry Black bloodline, which I'm not sure if anybody has any pure stuff. I think I've heard there are some people that still have a few laying around, but not many. But these are high percentage Larry Black bred to straight Shuet line. And they just like a perfect classic jungle. The male in particular, just blacks, very little yellow tipping, no black tipping, and like perfectly banded.
Yeah. Do you like yellow tipping, or are you not a fan?
I actually do. I love it.
So do I.
There isn't as much of it around anymore. And honestly, like if I could find a pair of like pure Lazic line with a lot of yellow tipping, I would jump on it, because I don't know. Do you know about Cover Girl? Do you know the lore there? Oh yeah.
So yeah, one of my jungles that I got from Nick Mutton is her like great grandmother is Cover Girl.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and with the lineage charts that Nick puts together, you're fortunate enough to see that, which is really cool. It's not, in my opinion, it's not required, but man, it's cool as hell when you get it, you know? And every time I take her out, like I'll think, because I got one from Mike Curtin, and every time I think I just want banded and super black and super yellow. That's all I want. And you know, I'll look at the one from Mike Curtin, and that's exactly what it is. And I'm in awe every time I look at him. And then I take out the girl from Nick Mutton, who has a bunch of yellow tipping, and I'm like, God dang it, I love this just as much, if not more. You know?
I know. And that's kind of where I am with my group. Like you know, back in the day, there was way more variety in jungle carpets, and it seems like, I don't know if people just tended towards the pure blacks, and I like both. You know, it's I couldn't pick between the two, but I just haven't found what I want with all the yellow tipping yet. But yeah, CoverGirl was my dream snake. I actually had one of her offspring back in the day,
Wow.
and then I had one of her I had several jungles from Will Leary, who owned CoverGirl. And yeah, if I could find some nice, like, pure Lazicline, I would love that.
How many? What's your group looking like for jungles?
So yeah, I've got the 3.3. So I've got the two from Mike Cross, the pair from Mike Cross that are kind of a mix of everything. The Headhunter girl, which has a lot of CoverGirl blood in her. But I think she's got some Shuit, and obviously, you know, the zebra blood. And then let's see, I think the wide banded male has a lot of CoverGirl and VPI blood in it. And then the Shuit Larry Black stuff.
Nice. That's a nice group. 3.3. I right now I'm at 1.2, and I have every intention of going out to 2.2. But I'm starting to think 2.3 or 3.3.
Yeah. It's hard to stop once you start.
Yeah.
And honestly, I go back and forth. I'm wondering if maybe I have maybe one pair too many, just because they are all like the solid banded. They're all very similar looks, but I do have variety in that. Like, I have some that are just like perfect classic jungles, and then some that are, you know, darker, and some that are lighter. So I don't know. I definitely want to push the envelope versus, you know, having more yellow and having like as little yellow as possible.
Yeah, that's a hell of a look too, when you can get thin yellow bands and just a ton of velvety black. Yeah, I don't know. I'm almost thinking of getting, I really want to get another, I think I want to get another male from mutton that's not super related to the female I have, with a lot of the tipping, so I could breed specifically for the yellow tipping.
Yeah, that'd be
and
cool.
then go in the other direction and try to find some animals with that really stark dark black to breed to my others. And yeah, I'm kind of, because I do love them both. I love them both so much. I mean, I think the jungle's got to be my favorite of the carpet pythons. It's just such a cool snake.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I've gotten into all the other stuff, I don't think I could ever not have jungles, you know?
Yeah. What other kind of carpets do you have?
So probably the biggest focus is popwin carpets. I've got 2.5 of them.
Whoa.
And I'm actually looking to add another male. Nick has produced some awesome stuff this year, so I'm whenever those become available, I'm going to try to get a male out of those.
Nice.
But yeah, I've got 2 projects, well, 2.5 in mind with that. So I have Mike Cross. I'm not sure how big of a group he started with. I think it was 3.3. He started with wild caught stuff, and has been just 3 generations in now, breeding his stuff back together and really kind of refining and going for this like high contrast look. And I have a pair from him that just smoke. I mean, the male is 3 years old. It's all of my projects. I started with males that I loved, but they are older than all the girls. So I've been patiently waiting for the girls to catch up to the boys, because I've got 3 boys that would have been ready last season, but didn't have any girls ready yet. But
how old did you say your girls are?
My oldest one is a 2020.
Okay.
And
so you're almost there.
Yeah, she'll go next season. She probably could have gone last season because I got her like early March, and whoever had her before liked to feed a lot. So she's pretty big, but I've been trying to slim her down a little bit. And
how do you feed?
I don't feed. Just whenever I feed, basically. The little stuff I feed pretty often, probably about once a week. And
until about what age?
It's really just kind of like a size thing. I don't know. Once they reach about 1.5 years, probably I just, whenever I feed them, and it's typically about every 1.5 weeks, up to 3 weeks. And then for the boys, I kind of consciously like, I'm not going to feed you.
Yeah.
until I just, I'm not sure when I fed you. I'll go ahead and do it. And
I have one male that's enormous. He's bigger than everything. And he's the same age. It doesn't make any sense. And I feed him less than them.
Yeah.
And it's like he just keeps growing.
It's weird. They're all different. Like I have 3 Papuan carpets that are either straight siblings or half siblings. And whenever I first got them, I kind of kept them all on the same schedule. And like 2 of them grew really fast. And one of them, no matter how much I feed it, just is smaller than the other 2. And that one I've actually, as it's gotten older, I've tried to feed it a little bit more because it's a girl. And it doesn't keep up with the other 2 for whatever reason. And then like my Brettles python, I don't feed it very much, and it just grows and grows and grows. So
is that another project for you, the Brettles?
It will be. Honestly, if I want to make it a project, I'm going to have to cut back on something else, because I'm in my basement. I don't have tons of space. I don't have tons of time. So I'm about maxed out on my projects, and that's kind of why I've kind of been thinking about Antaresia, because they're just as, it's pretty much the same care. But they take up so much less space than carpets. Yeah. I don't know. I want to get a male eventually for my female Brettles, but I haven't kind of picked what I want. She's a 100% hypo bloodline, 66% possible het for stonewash. I've kind of looked her over. I think I know what I'm looking for with the stonewash markers, but I haven't really seen any. So I probably would get a stonewash male, but I haven't. Honestly, I like the hypo a lot, so maybe I just get a hypo. Or I like the A4's bloodline, so I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure how much people have mixed the hypo and the A4's, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna look for a really nice looking male and then decide.
Yeah, it's probably a solid move.
Yeah.
What size cage do you plan on keeping the Brettles in?
I'm not sure. Probably a 4 foot by 2 foot. If she keeps on growing, maybe I'd get a 6 foot cage for her.
Yeah. How old is she? How big is she right now?
She's just a 2023. What I'd say, she's probably getting close to 3 foot. She's not super. Yeah. She's growing fast compared to. I have a pair of inlands that are the same age, and she's twice their size.
Mm. Damn, I love inlands. They're so cool.
Yeah,
There's too
they.
many different carpets.
I know. I know. They may be
So,
my favorite right now. I don't
so
know. They're all my
the
favorite. They're all my favorite.
yeah, I feel you. I got one pop one, and I was wishing that he would basically turn into a jungle. Like I was wishing he had more yellows and
Yeah.
everything, and I was like, that's ridiculous. Let me just give in and get a jungle, and then it turned into a pair and then a trio,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
it's just gonna keep going. It's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. It is. It is. I will say, if you like that look of the yellow pop ones, Mike Cross is your guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because both of mine from him. The male has kind of grown out of it. He's not as yellow as he used to be, but whenever he was like in his prime, like 2.5, 3 years old, he just glowed yellow. Like
Mm.
he was as yellow as any jungle. It was a little bit of an oranger yellow, but yeah, yellow. And sometimes, that's the great thing about Poplins. They
Fire up.
fire up, and yeah, like he still goes like purple. It's not even lavender. It's like straight purple.
Wow.
But then whenever he was dark, he like almost jet black like a jungle. He's wild, but still with the orange flames. Yeah, he's a special animal, and I'm excited to to see what the next generation could be.
I feel like my male, he fires up for sometimes like days at a time. Like all of a sudden, like he'll be kind of unimpressive, and then all of a sudden it's just like just vibrant. Everything is just super colorful, and it's so crazy because the jungles are pretty consistent. And when if they look crummy, like 3 days later they go opaque or something, and then you're like, oh, okay, it was a shed coming on. But
yeah,
it's so nuts how they fire up like that, and yeah, it makes it interesting for sure keeping them.
Yeah.
What drew you to the pop ones?
Well, I had started a little group, when I had my collection before, and that was one of the things that I really enjoyed, was watching them fire up and down. That's one thing that like keeps you like looking in the cages, because every day it's different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just really enjoy them. I like the fact that you have a little bit more color palette to work with. I like the smaller size. I mean, jungles and poplins are about the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Just everything about them I like. Well, that was another thing. Whenever I was getting back into it, I was so surprised how little had been done with them. Like there's 2 or 3 people that had been working on projects, but like compared to jungles, which, they all smoke now. And I was expecting to see more poplin carpets that were just like really smokers. And there's only like less than a handful that I can think of that are really working that direction. So I was like, we've got most genetic diversity available. And they haven't been worked with as much. That's where I want to go.
Yeah, you can still hand pick out wild caught ones, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for something specific.
Yeah, and they have so many different phenotypes, so many different looks. Like I've got the high contrast ones, and then I've got like these lighter colored ones, one that's like really bright orange, with just thin black outlines. And sometimes she just kind of is brown, like down her back, but then whenever she fires up, it's just solid orange, like all the way down her back, up her sides. She's really pretty. And then I have two others that are half siblings. One is a granite, and then the other is, het granite, and all three of them are possible hets for Xanthic. The other two, I think, are hets for Xanthic. So they aren't orange like she is, but you can envision if the Xanthic gene wasn't there, that they might be just as orange. So I'm kind of working towards that lighter colored orange Papuan carpet, and then also trying for granite and Xanthic in that little group. So, and then I have a higher contrast female that's a possible double het for Xanthic and granite too. So eventually I would want to, cross the streams and mix both projects together. So that's what I've been working with. And then, I have basically 3 different looks in my group right now, but there's endless supply of different looks, like striped ones, different kinds of stripes, different kinds of orange. It's wild. There's tons of different looks.
I know. I love the oranges and yellows, and it's kind of like that that line of jungles that's out there. Have you seen those ones with they're all like orange, and I mean, if you look in the more complete carpet python, they're just, they don't look like anything like what we normally have. And it's, God, what I wouldn't give for those. They're just so cool looking.
Yeah.
I don't even know how it's a jungle, but
oh man.
I guess we've just line bred the black and yellow, to the point where that's the standard now.
Oh yeah. It's kind of crazy. And I mean, I do prefer the black and yellow, but I still really appreciate the more wild looking ones. My first one, probably about 2001, was I bought it from Bob Clark at a snake show. It was a really nicely striped jungle carpet with like golds and stuff. And then whenever I was getting back into stuff, I went to the snake show in St. Louis, and William Philippek had a table with a bunch of Palmerstons on it. And I was like, it was like being in a time warp. That snake was exactly like the one that I had. And eventually I'll probably have to get a pair of those too, just because of the nostalgia. Yeah. It's like being in a time machine looking at those for me.
Yeah. If you get a chance, look through Lucas Lee's feed on Facebook. He's got that. I mean, it doesn't even look like the Palmerston. I wish I could remember.
Are they hamper?
I can't remember. I'm too stupid.
I think they might be hamper line.
With all that, it's like that burnt orange, and man, it's like every time I see it, I'm like, damn it, I need that.
And they're striped.
Yeah.
I think they might be hamper line. There's a few people working with those, and they're really cool looking. Yeah,
really incredible. I know Nick has a group of those, so I don't know. It's funny. Like I hear that certain people have certain things, and I'm like, all right, I need to save a little bit of room for specifically that down the road.
Yeah. Is it a bloodline or a locality?
I'm not sure. I wish I knew.
Because there's I think Nick has Tully locality too, which
I'm gonna look it up.
Really cool looking.
I gotta know now. I know I'm an idiot, but I can't be this dumb. I have to be able to. I know I've drooled over it, and I've gone back to it on Lucas's page, or actually it might have been his. I think he's Centralian.
Yeah, Centralian Exotics.
And pure Priceline.
Priceline.
Yeah,
cool.
Just so cool looking. It's like a kind of a like just like a I don't know, like a burnt brown orangey, it's just incredible looking.
Yeah,
But
those are sweet with a lot of yellow tipping too.
yeah, it's almost it's like it's a really dark, almost orangey brown tipping in the
Hmm.
black areas. Just
Yeah,
absolutely stellar. I'm man, what I wouldn't give for one of those. I mean, how many people have those? It's got to be
it's very few,
yeah.
and they're nice.
Yeah, so if I can ever get one of those or a pair of those, that's definitely on my list. They're too cool
Yeah.
not to have. But yeah, so what are you working with for Antaresia right now? How many pairs or how many
So
animals do you have?
I have a pair of children's pythons and one of their babies.
Oh,
had
okay.
a I had a clutch this year.
Oh, nice.
It was maternally incubated, and everything was great. Only two pipped, and only one came out though. And then I cut a couple eggs open, and like one didn't have a real face, and so
Right.
I'm not sure what happened. I did have like a heat spike where a thermostat just didn't it like overheated one day. I don't really know
Mm,
why. An alarm went off, and then I went down and reset it, and it was fine after that.
mm.
Um, so I'm not sure if that's what did it or something else earlier on, but only one egg, only one snake came out, and it's beautiful. It's really nice. Everybody talks about horror stories of Antaresia not wanting to eat, and I think children's are easier than the rest, but I offered it a mouse and it ate it, you know.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's doing really, really well. It's a nice, real light colored, colorful.
Is that the what did you produce previously, or did you never that
I
this
never
okay.
bred
So
anything
was
before. So
the children's your first clutch?
yeah,
Nice. Congrats, man.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, it
I'm
was it was pretty fun, pretty exciting day.
oh, I bet. So what kind of temperatures are you keeping at, and kind of how are you keeping all your animals? Do you keep them all with the same parameters, and are you doing overhead heat or belly heat?
So most of my stuff are in racks. So they've all got belly heat. Um, the cool side of the tubs is in the summer. This time of year is low 80s.
Hmm.
Um, and kind of in the winter, my basement gets pretty cool. So I just keep the heat on, but it drops to like the mid to low 70s on the cool side. So they have the option, and I see them in the winter. They're often just sitting in the cool side. So I'm like, I'm not gonna mess with very much
Hmm.
in the racks, anyways. And then I've got some 4x2s for the bigger stuff that's getting close to adult size. Um, and those I do a night drop. Even in the summer, I just don't want the heat panel on all 24 hours a day. And they're hot spots like in the upper mid 80s, like 87. And then I turn it down to 80 at night. Um, and let's see, back here, these are like the Christmas tree tubs.
Hmm.
So they're basically the same size as 4x2s. And it kind of same kind of thing. It's upper mid 80s on the hot spot, and the cool ends low 80s this time of year. And I imagine with the way my room works, that's going to drop into the low 70s, but I'll have to wait and see what happens if I'm going to need to do any tweaking on temperatures.
Yeah.
It'll be my first season with that rack.
So you keep the heat on all night, or is it on timers where it just turns off totally at night during the summer?
I just leave it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then during the winter, do you have it turn off at night?
No, because I'm afraid it's going to get too cold. It's my basement's pretty chilly, and yeah, it gets about 70, 72 somewhere in that at night on the cool end, and I haven't really found a need to. The children's pythons, I know they're easy to breed, but they had no issues breeding other than only one snake hatch. So who knows? But it'll be interesting. I'm going to do the breeding in the 4x2s, so I'll be messing with temperatures a little bit more there. But for the carpets anyway.
Yeah. What are you keeping your children's in?
They're just in racks. They're like the V70.
Oh, okay.
Size.
And you pair them up in that and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
That's all kinds of space for them.
Yeah, for sure. So what do your friends and family think about all this?
I mean, they're my parents and stuff. That's just who I am. They know, they know that. And then, let's see, my wife, it's kind of funny. There's this, when we were still dating, we were in St. Louis and we went, to the botanical gardens and saw dart frogs. And I had some dart frogs too, way back when. And I was like, I'm thinking I might want to get some dart frogs again. And it was like she's like, why would you do that? And it was like, she was not on board, and I was like, well, this is it, man. This is where I draw. I don't have anything now, but this is where I would draw the line. Like I have to have the option to do that. So once she understood that, she's been on board ever since we got married, and I told her that I wanted to get snakes again and all that stuff. She's been on board and very supportive, but
nice.
it was, I had to give her that boundary. It's like, I got to have the option at some point.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's, I wouldn't say she necessarily enjoys them, but she's curious about them, and she puts up with them, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah. Does she hold any of them, or is she not about it?
She's held them a few times. I honestly don't even handle them very much. They're kind of a look and don't touch thing for me most of the time, just because I don't know. Whenever I was younger, I got more enjoyment out of handling them, but now it's just like they don't really like it, so I'm not gonna pull them out unless I need to. So they come out for cleanings, and most of the time I don't handle them.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you think you might branch out to, or are you set on just the Morelia and the?
I'm trying to limit myself to so that my collection doesn't explode any more than it already has.
Yeah.
So I've kind of put guardrails on it to just be Morelia and Antaresia.
Yeah.
The only other, I mean, yeah, it'd be hard to open up. I would love to have some Savus again, just because I had them way back when and I loved them. Whenever I was in high school, I did a 2-year-long high school, like a science research project at the St. Louis Zoo, that dealt with rhino rat snakes. And I just loved them. So if I was going to get a colubrid, that would be the one, and I might break my rule and get a pair of those eventually.
Nice.
But and chondros, they, I guess, technically fit in the Morelia realm. So
they are Morelia.
I might get a pair of those eventually.
They don't take up much space either. So
No, they're kind of like the perfect mix of a carpet python and an antaresia.
yeah, yeah. I mean, most people keep those in what, 2x2 cubes.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah. They'd be fun to have.
What would you want to get into, like a designer, or would you want to do locality?
I would do locality. There aren't as many available. That's another big change from, uh, you know, 20 years ago. Is there were all kinds of localities, at least that I remember. Then now there not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people working with them, and not a lot of imports even coming in. So
Hmm.
seems like BIAC is the only one that I consistently see available.
Yeah. Yeah. If I were to get into them, it'd be the same thing. I'd want to do pure localities. And the thing that I'm really drawn to is just pure green snakes. You know,
Oh yeah,
not a lot of white, maybe some blue. I do like the blue down the back, but
yeah.
yeah,
I'd
they're
probably want some Arus.
yeah.
I like the kind of the blue and the with the white speckling and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, they're really cool. They're a very cool animal. So, would you ever keep anything up in your main house, or is everything going to be down in the basement?
For the most part, I think it's going to be in the basement. I might be able to get one like display upstairs, and I would want to really kind of go all out with that and make it look really naturalistic. I don't know. I'm thinking if I get some anthill pythons, that might be the thing because they don't take up much space, and
Hmm.
I don't want to, my living room to be just one big giant cage. So do kind of
That would be pretty cool.
like a little desert scene with some anthill pythons. That'd be lots of fun.
Yeah, just the design. If you're working with the foam and carving it out and
Mm-hmm.
painting it and everything, that would be a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to do that with one of my Timor pythons. I think I want to give the female like a bigger enclosure when she matures and make it all bioactive and just make it look like just a piece of the rainforest, with a
Yeah,
mister
that'd
or
be
something.
awesome.
Yeah, just
I'm
like a real like centerpiece.
I'm jealous of those, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you like those?
Oh, the Timors.
Yeah.
They're good. They're those. Yeah, in my opinion, I want to be able to hold them
Yeah.
without getting musked.
Yeah.
So I have to hold them at least once a week.
Gotcha.
If I don't, I've gotten pretty good at reading their body language. The best way to get them out of the cage is to lift up the hide and scoop them up. If
Uh-huh.
once they run, they panic. They start to freak out. And I can actually, the thing I'm looking at when I'm taking them out is their vent, because it blows up like a water balloon before they let go. So it's, I can tell that's how I read them to see if they're stressed out when I'm taking them out, and where I
Uh-huh.
need to hold them. But yeah, it's if I hold them once or twice a week, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, it makes a world of a difference. But if I go a week or two without taking them out, then I'm almost guaranteed to get peed on.
Interesting. They're like, oh, this is the first time I've ever been interacted with.
It's blindingly annoying, but once they're out, they're totally fine. But it's
Yeah.
that initial scoop up.
Yeah.
So it's just keeping them familiar with me. And even if I'm changing out the water bowl, I'll just put my hand up to them so they
Yeah.
can smell me. And I just have to be careful because their feed response is similar to that
Oh,
of a
yeah.
retic,
Oh, yeah.
so it's sometimes if I just touch the door, they'll pop their head out of their hide and be like, is it time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like Antaresia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're little psychos. I mean,
Yeah.
it's bananas. My little spotted is, thinner than a Sharpie marker. And if I put my hand in there, if it gets too close to her, she'll bite and wrap around my finger.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But yeah, Timors are awesome. I recommend them to everybody, especially if they want to breed them, because I feel like we need more
Yeah.
captive breeding projects for them. I think it would help that species a lot, with their flightiness and
Uh-huh.
everything. But they don't bite.
Hmm.
I don't know what's better, getting mussed or bit. I guess honestly, I think I prefer getting bit
Yeah.
because getting peed on is kind of nasty. But do any boas catch your eye?
Oh man. Uh I try not to look at them, but yes, yeah. I mean, Candoya, I think, are the ones. If I were to get some, that's
Yeah.
kind of. They're from the same region as the other stuff that I'm interested in, and then they are relatively small, and uh,
Hmm.
some of them are like really cool looking too. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. Like if I would want ground boas or if I would want like viper boas, but uh, yeah, all of the Candoya that really catch my eye.
Yeah. Yeah. The viper boas are so sick looking. So cool.
And
Yeah,
I've
they're
heard,
small too. They're
yeah,
not.
and that's what attracts me too is they stay small. I've heard like the wild caught ones are little assholes, but the captive bred ones are pretty mellow. I don't
Hmm.
I don't know how true that is, but
Yeah. Yeah. So what kind of field herping do you do?
um, well, I wouldn't say that I do a ton uh, of just like dedicated field herping, but for the last 10 years, I've worked as a photographer for the Missouri Department of Natural Resources.
Oh, nice.
Um, so I do a lot of hiking, and whenever I'm hiking, I just, you know, look around and see what I see. And then my office actually has like this trail right next to the office. It's heavily wooded, and in the last year, I've found a red milk snake, a
Mm.
speckled king snake, tons of ringneck snakes, um, rough green snake, uh, and black rat snakes probably 4 or 5 times.
Nice.
Probably some other stuff that I'm not thinking of. Turtles, box turtles. But it's pretty great. I get to just kind of herp while I'm working sometimes.
Oh, heck yeah. So what are you photographing for your work?
So most of the time it's state parks,
Mm.
just people camping and hiking, fishing, that kind of stuff.
That's cool. What's it for? Like the website or
Website, brochures, magazine, that kind
nice.
of stuff.
That sounds like an awesome job.
Yeah, and I actually just got a new job for the Department of Conservation. So in Missouri, most states like DNR encompasses wildlife, but ours does not. We have a separate department. So I'm actually moving over to conservation now. So snakes will actually be a part of my job. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty epic.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? You're going out and taking the pictures and then just
Uh,
going back to the office and editing and
That's what I was doing for the last year. I was art director, so I was more in charge of graphics, and I supervised photographers and graphics people and that kind of stuff. And that's more of the role I'll be in now. It'll be managing. We'll have 2 photographers and like an illustrator that I'll be kind of managing, and then I'll be prepping photos and stuff for our magazine. They put out a magazine every month, and then like a kids magazine every other month, and then various books and stuff like there's a reptile field guide, field guide for all these different things. I'm not sure how often those get updated. I've got a copy from the 80s and then another one from like the late 90s. So I'm not sure how often they update those, but that was
every decade or two.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool because like that book is probably responsible for me being as into reptiles as I am. And it's kind of cool to work for the organization that got me so excited for it. So
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So what kind of equipment do you use? Canon or Nikon or?
I have used it all. So whenever I started, right now for my work, I use Sony.
Mirrorless?
Mirrorless. Mirrorless is awesome.
Yeah.
The ability to see the exposure, see the white balance before you take the picture, like with it up to your eye, it's amazing. The eye autofocus. I also shoot weddings, and I do all kinds of freelance work on the side. But to have the eye autofocus with like a prime lens shooting wide open at like a wide aperture, like f1.4 or something like that, and it just know where the eye is and always be tack sharp. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, especially at 1.4. Geez.
Yeah, it used to be like I would have 7 focus points, and I would have to, focus and then recompose because I normally didn't want the focus point to be in that part of the frame before. So I'd have to, focus and then move, and then you're going to miss focus a lot of the time doing that. Now it's just the whole frame has focus points on it now. So
yeah,
it's amazing.
Damn. Now I'm going to go buy a Sony.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's the thing. They've all kind of caught up. So I couldn't tell you that Sony was my favorite, but that's the one I use now just because they were the first to figure out the mirrorless. And so I jumped ship from Canon and,
what did you use from Canon prior to that?
So I started with a Rebel, which most people that start photography seriously start with a Rebel, it seems like.
Yeah.
Because they're cheap, but they're good. So yeah, I started, and it was all to take pictures of my snakes whenever I started. So yeah, I started with a little Canon Rebel, and I had I think it was like a 45 or a 50 millimeter macro lens, which on a Rebel is not, because it's a crop sensor. It's cropping into the to the frame. It's probably more like a 70 millimeter or something like that. Yeah, equivalent. But yeah, I started out with just like 2 macro lenses. My first one was like a 45 or 50, and then I had a 180 millimeter macro lens. That was awesome. It doesn't seem like that's a lens they make anymore, but if I found one, I would jump on it, because for field herping, that is a really nice lens because it gives you enough distance that, like, if you're dealing with venomous or something that you don't want to get super close to, it gives you range, but it's a macro lens, so you could get right up on something tiny, and really fill the frame, or you could like get details, get like eye photos, or that kind of stuff. If I can find one of those, I want to get one of those again. But yeah, for what I have now, pretty much any photo that you see on Instagram that I've taken is with my 100 millimeter macro, which is a great focal length for smaller, what I'm keeping. It's not probably adult carpets. It's not the best lens because you got to get pretty far away to get the whole body. But for smaller stuff, it's great. You can get details. You can get the entirety of a smaller snake if you get far enough back. And yeah, it's just a really nice lens, really versatile.
What are your settings like for photographing snakes?
So typically, if I'm shooting close with a macro lens, I'm going to be stopping down my aperture. So I'm sitting at like f8, f11, something like that. So because the closer you get to your subject, the less depth of field you have. So you're going to need to stop down your aperture to get more of it sharp. And then, I mean, the shutter speed, I'm a 100 millimeter lens. I try to keep my shutter speed as fast as I can. Typically, I want it to be like 200th of a second or more. And then the ISO is whatever I need it to be. Honestly, I go to 16. That's the other thing about these modern cameras is you can shoot at high ISO without too much of a penalty. And especially for Instagram or, where people aren't blowing it up on the wall, it's a little bit of grain isn't going to hurt it. So whenever I'm shooting inside, sometimes I'm at 1200 or 1600 ISO.
Wow.
But outside, I try to keep it as low as possible. 100, is ideal.
Yeah. Do you shoot snakes outside or inside mostly?
Most of the time it's inside, but I take them outside too. I've got a nice north-facing garage, so I can basically create an overcast day anytime I want to just by opening a garage door. So sometimes I'll do that. Or afternoon, just about any day of the week, I've got shade. So I just go out there and put them in the shade. Every once in a while, I'll take them out in the sun and the colors will really pop, but I typically prefer the overcast look.
Yeah.
Inside, I have what's lighting me right now is an LED light wand. And I typically, like if a snake's in a tub, I just have it on a stand and I put it over the tub. And that way I can get a, nice coiled full body photo. That's the Antaresia in particular, but carpets too. Like once you get them out, it's hard to get them settled down.
Yeah.
I used to be really patient and sit there, put them under a bowl or, wait for them to calm down. But now I don't have the patience. So I typically take tub shots. At some point, maybe gearing up for the Morelia Python Radio calendar, I might spend a day and try to get some really nice, staged photos or something. But
yeah, I wouldn't mind actually taking some time and getting my camera out and using it for the snakes. I haven't done it yet because it is, to me, it's extraordinarily frustrating when the subject wants to get away from you.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to think of a way to either get some grapevine or something and put it on a platform and, get them to just kind of go up that and settle down, or I don't know. It's tough. That's why I wanted to pick your brain on it. Cause you've got some stellar pictures and it's funny you said about the Rebel. That's what I started out with.
Oh yeah.
And now I've got a 6D Mark II.
Oh, that's great. I used to have a 6D. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good camera.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I've got the nifty 50 lens on it, and
awesome.
I I don't know. What's your thoughts on using that lens for snake photography?
Oh shoot, yeah. I
Yeah.
would use that all day, especially for bigger snakes. It's a good working distance to get full body.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you had him like sitting on the ground, you could just stand above them or hold it,
Yeah.
above. Yeah, that's a great lens. Can't beat it.
Yeah. That's what I'm actually using
Especially,
to. That's what I use to record the podcast.
yeah.
Is that camera and lens combo? It's not too
Oh yeah,
bad.
can't beat it. Can't beat it. Yeah, yeah. Other than the conveniences of mirrorless, like image quality, that is as good as it gets. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm almost drawn to getting the mirrorless just for the video. I know a lot of those go 4K now, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say most of them do 4K. Some of them do, I think, 8K now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I'd love to get a mirrorless and throw like I don't know, like a 7200 or something on it for wildlife and herping and
oh yeah, that'd be a great. I
yeah.
used to have a Canon 100 to 400.
Mm,
That's a great lens.
hell yeah.
And it's not cheap, but compared to other 400 lens or 400 millimeter options, it is like a really great value because most of those, like a 400 millimeter lens, could be like $10,000, but
Hmm.
that one is, especially if you got a Canon like a SLR. I bet you could get it for $1,500 maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and whew, it's great wildlife lens. Would be a great reptile wildlife lens. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to I got to look into that. I haven't really taken the dive yet with the lens. I upgraded the camera and then just stuck with the nifty 50 and kind
That's a
of
good lens. It's a good
yeah.
lens.
Yeah, and you can't beat it for, I mean, how much are they? Like $120 on Amazon? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. They aren't bad at all.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if anybody wants to get into, getting away from their phone, which I would highly recommend for taking pictures of anything, but that would be a great start. Would be a nifty 50 and a Rebel, and you're probably in at what, $600 for both of those, somewhere around there, and
Yeah.
and
And
the
if you
Rebels now are insane.
and if you buy them used, you can get them dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Heck, somebody might even just give you a Rebel.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then you keep it as a backup camera. The
Yeah.
thing I hated most about my Rebel was the battery.
Yeah.
It was just like dead in no time.
Short life.
Yeah.
Uh, that was an adjustment moving to mirrorless. I started with the A7 III, so they had kind of figured it out by that point. But the A7 II, the earlier mirrorless cameras had really bad battery life.
Mm,
But yeah, I shoot with my A7 III on a wedding day, and I can get most of the way through I have to do one battery change in a day, and
nice.
that's using it all day. But yeah, back whenever I was doing SLRs, I'd get 3 or 4 shoots with one battery.
Yeah.
But
Do you have any plans to get out to Australia and do some herping there?
I would absolutely love to.
Same here.
Uh, my wife and I like to travel a lot. So I mean that'd be a kind of a bucket list thing. Before I do that, I've been to 49 states, so I
Mm.
have to knock the 50th off, and that's Alaska. So
I thought it would have been Florida.
no, I've been there.
I'm
But
sorry.
I do want to go back because I'd like to see the Everglades. It's definitely I may have missed my chance to see the Everglades as the Everglades, but it'd be fun to see what's going on there anyway.
Yeah. Now it's Little Indo,
Yeah.
Little Burma.
Hey, it'd be my first time seeing a wild python, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. If you ever decide to do it, hit me up. I want to get over there. I mean, I've been here my whole life and I haven't gotten over there to see any berms yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. No berms. I haven't really seen, I don't think I've ever, I have friends that have seen boas, but they were just released pets, you know. But yeah, I haven't seen any berms. I do want to get over there and check that out and see what it's all about. But haven't gotten over there yet. Maybe grab an Asian water monitor and a tegu while I'm there too.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, it is. We have a lot of agamas over here. A lot of iguanas, Mexican spiny tails, and I think down in, you know, where the berms are at over in Miami, they've got a lot of the greens and everything.
Huh.
But yeah, it's pretty wild. But yeah, that's high on my list, is getting to Australia. That would be incredible.
Yeah, I definitely want to do it at some point. And if I do it, because I probably will only get the chance once, but if I do it, I want to be able to spend a lot of time there.
How long do you think?
I don't know, because I want to see the north, I want to see the south.
Mm.
You know, it's a big country, so I can't even fathom it. It's definitely at the top of my list.
Yeah. Would your wife be into that, or do you think you'd be doing it solo?
I think she would be into it. We have some other things, like we want to go to Japan too. So it's just, you know, figuring out which place we're going first. But I think I just have to cross the last state off of my list before I can do anything like that.
Maybe you could just get a layover in Alaska on your way
there you go.
somewhere. What kind of gear would you bring if you went to Australia for photography?
Oh shoot. I would definitely bring a wide angle lens to get photos of animals in their environment. So probably I've got a 14 to 24. Mm-hmm. I'd probably bring that. I would bring the 100 millimeter macro, because I think that is just about the most versatile lens you can have. I would probably, I don't own one right now, but I would probably buy another 100 to 400.
Yeah.
And that would probably be all I need. I've got a 28 to 75. I'd probably throw that in the bag too, because it's small and it's really versatile too. If I was going to go out with only one lens, that would be it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd probably be the group I would bring.
How many cameras? Just the Sony, or would you bring a backup?
I'd probably bring two Sonys.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring two of the same body, probably.
Damn, I'm gonna have to look into these Sonys now.
They're great cameras, and like I said, I wouldn't say necessarily Sony's better than Nikon or Canon. I think Nikon and Canon have caught up, and honestly, I haven't really paid too much attention. Any camera you buy these days is awesome.
Yeah,
like they're all going to do the job. It's just you got to figure out how to use them. But I would say, especially for landscape photography, the other advantage of mirrorless is you don't have to have it up to your eye all the time.
Yeah,
I mean, you could do mirror lockup on SLRs too and get the same result, but it's so nice to just hold the camera down. Like if you're basically, you know, to get really dramatic landscapes, you want something in the foreground and then you want to see the background, keep going back. So typically it's going to be resting on the ground. You don't want to be like laying on the ground doing that. So that's another advantage of the mirrorless is just look at the back of the camera, kind of like you're doing with your phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even the phones they're pretty crazy how good of a picture they take
Oh,
now.
they're
But
all great. They're all great.
I mean, but in my opinion, nothing can ever beat the depth that you get with that.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, just the ability to have changeable lenses is the biggest value of a real camera, and then shooting raw. I mean, you can shoot raw on phones these days too, but shooting raw allows you to have more latitude in editing because, like, if you have like a scene with a lot of dynamic range, lots of bright spots, lots of dark spots, you aren't going to capture it all on a JPEG. Most phones do an HDR mode now, though, so it kind of compensates for it. But if you do it with your camera and then you shoot raw and edit it, you have control of the whole process.
Have you done any herping as you've gone to all 49 states?
Like it hasn't really been dedicated to herping, but I've done a lot of hiking, and like most of my trips were related to like going to national parks and stuff. And I've seen a few critters. Probably my favorite thing is White Sands National Park in New Mexico. It's really cool. There's these earless lizards there that are white because they live on the white sand. And then there's another like national park, a national monument, not very far. I can't remember what that one was. That has a bunch of lava rock, and they have the same lizards there, but they're all black, and that's pretty cool to me. And there's
really cool.
Other species, like there's fence lizards and stuff there that are all white too. It's pretty neat to see kind of like how they've evolved to fit the background.
Yeah.
Trying to think of nothing really else stands out. I haven't done like a whole bunch of dedicated herping. I've seen lots of critters though.
Yeah. I always try to make time for it wherever we go. I mean, we don't go too far from home because we got the kids and school and all that, but we're going to be going to Washington this summer. And I'm really excited to get out there and hopefully see some different stuff. I mean, just we went from Georgia, or went from, we live in Florida, and we went up to Georgia during Christmas time, and we were flipping rocks in the river and pulling all these different kinds of salamanders out and newts, and it was so cool. And just because we don't have any here in Florida, not readily available.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
It's, if you can set a little bit of time aside, it's worth it.
Honestly, that is something I like have thought about doing, a dedicated herp trip to North Carolina to look for salamanders, because I think they've got the most variety of salamanders in the States. They've got some cool stuff.
Yeah, I believe it. We were in Blue Ridge area, and yeah, I mean, we found probably six or seven different kinds in probably an hour. And then we got yelled at that we had to come back and go shopping downtown, which was just terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the things, it was like,
go
really
shopping.
Yeah, it was like, this is so much better, guys. Like, come out here and experience nature and see what Georgia's really about, instead of antique shops.
Yeah. That's funny.
But yeah, I'm hopeful to maybe see some rattlesnakes or something in Washington. That would be cool.
That's cool. Yeah, I've only seen one wild rattlesnake, I think, and that was on I had a herpetology class in college, and we found a rattlesnake in about 1,000 cottonmouths. There's this little national wildlife refuge in southeast Missouri that's just like a swamp, and they are everywhere. It's really
Really?
cool. Yeah, really cool.
That's pretty wild. How many of them chased you? Did every single one chase you?
Not a single one.
I'm shocked to hear that.
But we did see a lot of white mouths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll definitely let stay back.
Yeah.
And generally they do chase people very long distances. All jokes, of course. What so do you do any kind of naturalistic keeping right now with anything like that?
Um, I mean, I do like the stuff that's in cages is more naturalistic setup. Like they've got like wood branches and like a mulch bedding and but I wouldn't say like I don't have bugs in there and that kind of stuff. I've done that with frogs, and it works with them, but I haven't. Like you're still gonna have to clean poop and stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty basic. Just mulch and branches is what I've got. And but like I said, I have tinkered with the idea of maybe bringing a cage upstairs and like doing some fake rocks and sand and stuff for like Antaresia. Or I've also had the idea because I don't have a huge collection, but it's probably too big to do like all out for everybody, at least in my current circumstances. But I was thinking like maybe an example of each species. I would do like a nice naturalistic setup in the basement and just kind of have like a big display wall to show off like variety to everybody that wanted to see it. So
yeah, I feel like that would be a ton of fun with the jungles, setting up like an Australian, rainforest jungle kind of. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. The jungles are so cool, and I would play with lighting too. The photographer in me, I would, get like a little spotlight where and create conditions to make them want to use the perch where I want them to use it, and just kind of spotlight it and maybe use a couple different colors of light so there's some depth in there, and yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah, I've seen some enclosures set up, and man, it's staggering when you see them. They're just so cool looking, all dark, and like you're really at the kind of towards the forest floor. Really neat looking.
Yeah,
it's that's something I would like to do with the jungles as well, but you can't do it with all of them. It's too difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what your priorities are. If you were just wanting to keep them as displays and like you had a medium or smaller collection, then yeah, do it. But I've gotten into it more for the fun of breeding, so it's I can't devote all my space to it.
Yeah. What year do you think you're going to start in with the jungles? When do you think they'll be ready?
I have a 2021 female, but she has been more finicky for me. For whatever reason, she has switched to eating birds, and
What?
yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I know she went off food completely for a while, and she is a weird animal. She's just one day a switch was flipped, and she became really defensive and nervous. And I cannot interact with her. She just flips out. And she went off feed, and then I was like, okay, I'll try a bird, and that's what she's wanting to eat now. And I probably this winter I'm gonna fast her, and then try switching her back to rodents and see if she'll get on it. But if not, I'll just keep feeding her birds and get bigger birds. But right now I've got his day-old chicks, so they're decent size, but she grows slow.
what's that process going to be like, fasting her?
I mean, you know, I kind of did that with all of my year and a half old stuff last year, where the temperatures in my room dropped, and like the cool side, most of the cage was in the mid to low 70s. They still had hot spots, but I was just, just slow down feeding to smaller items, and really infrequent feeding. Like the massive Papuan carpet that I got that was a little chunky,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feed her at all winter. And I'll probably take that approach with just about everything that I have that's, adult size, near adult size. I might feed a few times, but just real light, small meals. And with her, with that finicky jungle, I might just give her, I don't know, late October through late December off and not feed her at all, and then see if she'll get super hungry and give her a mouse or a rat and see what happens.
Yeah, that I have one that's on quail now, and he won't take, he's a lot more consistent with quail than he is mice.
Yeah.
And they have to be just dropped in. I can't, if I present it to him, it freaks him out, and then he's not going to eat it.
It's interesting how they're all different like that.
Yeah.
Like I have a few that I just prefer to drop feed because it's easier.
Yeah.
And then some of them won't even touch it if you drop feed them. It's like, well, where's the food?
Yeah.
And
I smell it, but it's not here. They'll be perched
Yeah.
up and like looking down at the ground. Like, I don't get it. I smell it. There should be something here.
And when I got my inlands, it was like you were describing. It was, and a couple of my jungles are the same way. It was like I would present the food and they would just run away from it. And I was a little bit worried because I got my inlands. The guy I got them from, I had to only put a few unassisted meals in them, but like the shipping window was closed, and I was like, oh, I'll just take them and I'll deal with it. And I was a little bit worried. I'd like presented and they ran from it, but then it was like, maybe I'll just leave it in here. And like 2 minutes later, they ate it. So that's like good. Just frozen thawed, just laying in the bottom. And that, yeah, I have not had it. I mean, that was the first attempt too. I gave it to them. They ran. So I was like, come back a few minutes later, give it to them. They ran. So I was like, screw it. I'll just leave it in there and see what happens. And it worked.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. They're all different. They all have different personalities and want different things. And I don't care. I'll deal with whatever they want. As long as they eat something, I'll feed them. And
yeah, I mean, it's not like the birds are any more or less expensive. It's I mean, chicks are cheaper.
They're super cheap. Yeah. She'll grow and get to a good size on them. That'd be great. But she's been growing pretty slow, so I want to pump a little more food into her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's got to be probably healthier to feed them some more birds, right? Because they're leaner. I know a lot of the mice and rats can have a lot more fat and.
Yeah, and I believe in a varied diet if you can give it to them. Most of the animals I have get birds, rats, and mice. Most of the smaller stuff is on mice with birds mixed in and rats mixed in, and then most of the bigger stuff is mainly on rats with mainly birds mixed in. But
what kind of birds are you doing? Just chicks, or are you doing
just
quail
day-old
as well?
chicks? Yeah, I'll probably get an assortment of quail to the company that I've been buying my stuff from. Didn't have quail until recently. I think they've got some quail now, but
yeah, I like the quail. I like how small they are. So if you have a smaller snake that's really finicky, it's a good option. That one jungle, it drove me crazy at first, and once I figured it out, I'm just like, you know what? If you want me to drop it in and it's got to be a quail, that's fine. I'll do that.
Yeah.
As long as you're taking it, that's what matters. I mean, and he's really he's not aggressive at all. He's never bitten
Hmm.
since the day I got him, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. He's so tame. But then at the same time, he's like, kind of timid and afraid of food items too. So I
Yeah,
guess
that's
there's a
interesting.
trade-off.
And maybe that's kind of the deal with the inlands, because it's the same way with them. Like they won't bite you. They'll
Yeah.
never bite you in my experience. But yeah, now they're just as bad as the Antaresia. You come near them and they want food. But whenever I first got them, they would run from you, and they didn't want a mouse.
Yeah.
But yeah, you leave it in there and they were fine.
So you said you and your wife travel a lot.
We travel a decent amount. Yeah.
How do you have somebody that takes care of your snakes while you're gone, or like how does that work?
I have people that come and like check on things, but typically we aren't gone for more than a week. So it's,
Okay.
it's pretty easy to make sure everybody has the poop out of them and
Yeah.
has water before we go. And then just somebody comes and checks, make sure the thermostats are working and, the house isn't burning down or frozen.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
that's the scary thing, having had that situation before. And
Yeah.
we traveled in December this year, and I've got like the Govee temperature probe thing, so I can kind of track things myself whenever I'm away. But it's still a worry, like what happens if I'm gone and I can't do anything about it. So I've got people that can at least help, and I've got like space heaters and stuff like gas space heaters and stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of my biggest fears. I need to get some of those temperature sensors.
Yeah.
How many of those can you get on one don't they need I forgot how it's set up. You have to have like the Wi-Fi thing, right? And then they feed
Yeah,
through
there's like
that.
a receiver. I'm not sure how many you can get on there. I've just got one with 3 in it. That
Okay.
I have one like in the room, and then I have a few like spread out in other places. But
Yeah.
just make sure that the place isn't burning down. I need to buy more.
Yeah, they've been sitting in my Amazon cart getting ready for this trip coming up because that's kind of one of my concerns is like because I don't I just keep everything on dimmers, so that there's big swings in the temperatures. It's basically a
Oh
big
yeah,
night drop,
yeah,
and which is fine. It's set up. It's kind of calibrated for around noon to 2 o'clock. The temperature peaks at 88,
uh huh.
89, and then it starts to taper down from there. So I'm just gonna, but I check my temperatures like twice a day, so
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
so I'm just kind of I've got friends that are kind enough to come over, so maybe I'll have them come over like midweek and then towards the end. And so how do you make sure that I mean, obviously they're still gonna poop if they have to, but how long do you not feed yours for before you leave?
Um, Probably about 2 weeks. Yeah, if I
Yeah.
got something planned, 2 weeks. I'll be the last feed.
Yeah. That's a good idea. So by the time you come back, they must be ready to go.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, even whenever I'm here, like for the bigger stuff, they probably it's not uncommon for them to not eat in 2 weeks anyway. So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's always concerning leaving home, but I'm gonna get a ton of those sensors and put those suckers everywhere, and that way I can track everything.
yeah, I mean, it'd probably be smart to have one on each cage if you can, or at least in same general areas, which
Yeah.
is something I want to do.
Yeah, and I've got my heaters on or my heat emitters on smart switches too. So if anything starts going wrong, I can go in
Yeah,
and
that's
turn it
great.
off.
That's great.
So it's everything's kind of set up to run from the phone. The only thing I don't have right now is the temp sensors because I don't really need them yet. But all right, man. Well, it was good talking to you, and
Yeah, you too.
I can't wait to see what kind of jungles you start pumping out here. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, I think it'll be 2 years for my jungles. But I might be able to get 3 clutches that year because I'll have 3 females that it should be close.
Hell yeah.
Top ones, my first attempt would be this year. And then I might try the children's again this year, and I will be doing Western Stinsons this year. So
nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick your brain because I haven't bred anything yet, and I'm really excited. My first go through was just, you know, an eclectic group of every kind of snake possible, and this time when I got back into it, I was much more laser focused, and
yeah,
you know, this is, you know, really drawn to specific animals and what I want to produce.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, can you describe your group right now?
Yeah, it's well, yeah. So I've got the trio of jungles, and I plan to have at least, I don't know, at least 2 pairs for sure, and I'd maybe like to push that out to 2.3. I think that would be a good spot because there's multiple people that I'm watching them and their pairings and everything, and I'm like, man, I'd really like to get a female from this person and
right
and a male from this person, and so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. And then I've got my reverse trio of Timors, and those are all from Ryan Young. So ideally, if I can get them to breed, which would be, you know, I don't know, it's a pipe dream. And it's years off, but it would be awesome if it could happen. You know, to produce F2 Timors would be something I'd just get a lot of enjoyment out of.
Mm-hmm.
And awesome. I have a pair of BIs, and I have a Boa occidentalis female, and I'm looking for a male for her. She'll be ready to breed in probably 2 or 3 years, probably 2 years. So I would like to get a male for her. And I have a female spotted, and I plan on either getting a pair or, you know, like an additional pair so I could have a trio, or just get a pair of them. I don't know. I need to really map out my caging, you know, space, because that's a big issue. And I got the pop one, but I don't know if I want to get into them or not. You know, I have a male that I got, and it was sort of just to get him because I really like the pop ones, and I like having, you know, pet snakes. We have a ball python too, and you know, so I as soon as I got him, I wanted more of them, you know, and then I ended up going the jungle route though, because I couldn't help myself. That black and yellow.
yeah. No, I get that. So what's the background on your pop one?
He is from Riley, from Riley's Reptiles.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
makes good stuff.
Yeah. So I've got the lineage on him. I don't think he's het for Xanthic. He's got, and he's not from Red Man. I forgot. I wish I could remember the name of the girl that, but I think he just got a clutch from her this year. So yeah, he's really nice. He's got that, he gets the yellows that fire up, and he's got some really nice dark markings and kind of that buckskin color all throughout. And yeah, he's a very cool looking animal. I don't know if I want to get more or not. Something I really, really want to do is get diamonds and keep them outdoors.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. And where you are, you can do it. Yeah.
I know. I got Ron St. Pierre coming on, and I'm going to talk to him about keeping animals outside. And I've got Brandon Wheeler coming on, and he just produced diamonds outside granted he's in California, so it's a whole
Yeah.
different ball game. But yeah, I'm desperate to pick their minds and
Yeah.
and keeping animals outdoors.
Yeah, I'll be excited to listen to those. I don't think that's really it. Well, definitely not in winter. That's not an option here. But I diamonds are at the top of my list too. That's a someday thing. That's going to happen.
Yeah, I know they're so expensive right now, though. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, they are pricey, and yeah, if they weren't so expensive, I would have gotten some.
Yeah,
I don't know. I like variety too much to invest that much in one thing.
yeah.
But,
If you do get them, what are you looking at? Are you just going to do a pair or a trio?
I don't know. I would probably just start with a pair.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's once I get one of something, then it's really hard for me to not keep getting more. So who knows?
It's a disease.
Yeah, I don't. Diamonds are one of those things where, like, I could also see myself getting a pair of diamonds and then just selling everything else and only having diamonds. I don't know. I don't know.
They're so cool looking. Yeah, they're high on my list. I'm also worried about keeping them outside because I've got bobcats, raccoons.
Oh yeah, I'd be terrified.
Yeah, there's protocols I kind of want to go over with those guys to see, how do you do it and how do you do it safely. We had chickens in the past, and I gave up once we lost 24 chickens to bobcats. I put up a 5-foot fence and a 4-foot fence, and and they'd jump over both fences, grab a chicken, and jump back out with it in its mouth and flapping. So it was you need them. I'm almost thinking getting like a dog kennel, like the big chain link ones with the roof on it, and then putting the cages in there.
Yeah,
and
that's an idea.
Yeah, so then there's a buffer to where they're not getting in there, and obviously doing a much finer mesh on the snake cage. But yeah, it's scary thinking about getting a high dollar animal and then keeping them out with animals that want to eat them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So what else is on your wish list? I know you've got incredible self-control, and that's great. But let's say your wife just said, "Hey, we should build a separate building for just snakes."
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, let's see. I would probably would definitely get the rhino rats, like I was talking about earlier. I'd probably get all of the Candoya. Oh man, I'd probably get maybe some rainbow boas. Those are pretty cool.
Oh yeah, those are cool. Especially when they get big and they don't get dull. That's what's so crazy. They get big and they're just as vibrant as when they're babies.
Yeah, they're really neat. And I mean, they're a good size. I like the medium to smaller stuff.
Yeah. So do I, but I also love my Argentine boa.
Yeah.
I love a big snake too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Brettles are probably about the max on what I want.
Yeah.
As far as size. I don't know, man. There's so many cool things. I want it all, but
yeah. What about short tail pythons?
Oh man, yes. I would get some short tail pythons. I'd get some bloods. That's one. I don't know. They're so, in my mind, they're so similar to like carpets, but so different. Like just in the variability of looks, and I don't know. They're cool. I would want some. In fact, that is one that I have tinkered with breaking my rule on and getting a pair of bloods. But
what kind of would you go with a morph? Like, I mean, what would you be getting if you got bloods?
I don't know. There are lots of cool morphs, but I, I don't even know
I
enough
know.
to pick. They're just so cool looking.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would just see what caught my eye, and that's the thing. Like with Morelia, I've focused in on them so much that I kind of know what is out there, know kind of, you know, the morphs. I know the localities pretty well. I know the, you know, the bloodlines pretty well and that kind of stuff. But like with blood, it's kind of just been off to the side, so I haven't been paying attention to the morphs and all that stuff. So I I don't know. I'd have to
I know.
research it before I did it.
I'll go to you know, the blood cell and you know, Matt Minatola's page and just drool over everything. Because I mean, like if you were to get into that, just those, it would be for me the totally black Sumatrans, the chrome
Uh-huh.
heads, the orange heads or pumpkin heads. I don't even know what you call them, but the caramels, and then the bloods. Forget about it with the Matrix 007, where they're like a cream with the
Uh-huh.
black spots and everything,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
so
and
cool.
it's nuts. It's just nuts. And they're like the one snake where I can sit there and just admire them in pictures and say I'm never going to get these because there's too many, and if I get one, I'm going to end up with
Yeah,
a
that's my
dozen.
worry. That's my worry with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's too much variability, and they're all incredible. They're so cool looking,
Yeah.
and they're intimidating as hell. I mean, you see like a big one that's not too keen on you, and it's like, man,
Yeah.
that's a
I've
dangerous animal.
I've never kept them, but yeah, for that reason, I've always been kind of wary of them. But a lot of people that keep them say that they're just like puppy dogs. I don't know.
hmm Yeah, yeah. If you, I guess if you spend time with them, they're pretty good. And I think like anything, you got to get to know their body language because they
Oh,
always
for
have
sure.
that. They always have
And that's
that
the
look.
thing. Like with the carpets and Antaresia, I can figure out what they're thinking. But yeah, that they're just they're built so differently that it'd be hard for me to understand them.
Yeah, yeah. They look like they're always about to whack you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
whenever you see them out, they're like, you know, kind of postured up and all that. But Matt was saying that you can watch their eyes, and just watching their eyes, you can see if they're stressing out. That when they start to stress out, their eyes kind of like really start flickering around, and you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're so cool. I could go down a rabbit hole with them
Yeah.
if I had a separate garage on my property. Yeah, for sure they'd be in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that would definitely be at the top of my list.
What else?
Honestly, I mean, if I had a room could do anything, I'd get a bunch of colubrids too. But
What kind of colubrids?
I really like I like milk snakes and king snakes.
What kind of milks, or like what are your top three milks?
I don't know that I necessarily have a top three. I because we have reds here, I don't even know what the laws are if I could keep them, but
Yeah.
um, I really like red milk snakes, and I'm not sure there's a lot of people working with them. Uh, Pueblans are cool.
Do you like black milks?
I do like black milks. I would probably go that route. I like the idea of an all black snake, but I also wonder if like I'd get bored of that look too. That's kind of why I like the dark jungles, but there's still some
Yeah.
yellow in there to break it up. But the cool thing with the black milks is they start out, you know, looking like a
hmm
normal milk, and then they change. That's pretty fun. That would be fun to reproduce those and watch that over and over.
Yeah. And their natural habitat is so cool to me. That's one of the most intriguing things about them. Just the where they come from is so neat. The black milks being in the high altitude.
Uh-huh.
in the cloud forests and everything. Like it's so neat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What about false water cobras? Do you like them?
Uh, Honestly, they don't really do it for me. Uh, they're cool. I can appreciate them, but I don't know that I would ever want to keep them.
Yeah, they get too big.
Yeah.
I feel like they like, and they probably, I don't know. I feel like they're very active and they probably need a lot of space.
Uh-huh.
And then their food response is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, I don't know. I for some reason I just prefer the look of pythons.
Yeah,
Even in I like boas too, and some colubrids, but I don't know what it is about me. It's probably grown up with Steve Irwin or something, but I just like the look of pythons.
yeah, yeah. I get that. So do I. I mean, I think I like boas and pythons evenly, and it's from week to week. I can go back and forth where I'm like, man, if I could only have one thing, it'd be a boa, and then the next week I'm like, I don't know, it'd have to be pythons. It'd have to be the jungles or something like that.
Yeah, and I just love the ease of care. Like they have such slow metabolisms. You can, feed them whenever you want, and
Yeah,
whenever you don't have to clean them constantly. Whereas I've kept colubrids in the past, and they eat and poop a lot.
yeah, yeah. That is a drawback. Having to feed a lot, much more regularly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with pythons, it's just when I want to do it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Any lizards or anything?
I don't. For that reason, right there, I don't think I would get into lizards again.
Yeah. What have you kept
Uh,
aside from?
the
Is it
the
just
green
the anoles and the green iguana, or did you
green
ever keep anything
iguana,
else?
and then I had a bearded dragon whenever I was a kid that I gave to my cousin later on. I think that was it. Yeah,
Yeah, I like. I want to get a lychee at some point. They're so cool,
yeah,
but I mean, you gotta. It is. It's a lot more food. It's a lot more work.
yeah. And that's why I don't keep the dart frogs anymore. I loved them, but you had to feed them every day.
Yep.
I
The
mean, some
fly
people,
cultures.
yeah, the fly cultures, you got to keep on that because they will crash.
Hmm.
And you have to have new ones waiting, and you have to be rotating them out to prevent mites from spreading. And yeah, it was before I kept the snakes. I had, whenever I was getting back into it, I had some dart frogs, and um, they were great to just have one tank or two tanks with just dart frogs, but
Hmm.
because then you have your daily routine, everything you got to do, but then doing it with everything else, you got to pick. Or
Yeah.
at least I've got to pick. I can't do the daily maintenance of the. I mean, really, they're easier in a lot of ways. It's
Hmm.
just it's a daily maintenance, but like no cleaning,
Yeah.
or very little cleaning. And then with snakes, it's like not a whole lot of daily maintenance, but if you have a few, you got to spend time doing some cleaning.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've had dart frogs too, and that mite problem you brought up is what killed them off the first time, where it exploded out of my fly cultures and
Uh-huh.
just mites all over the place inside the vivariums, and I think it stressed out the frogs I had, and then the heat too. I think because the second time they were doing great, and then it's like every time I would get into them, I'd get into them in the fall, winter.
Oh yeah.
Everything would be fine. And then we get into the summer here in Florida and the temperature in the house goes up.
Yeah.
and I don't think they could handle the
Yeah.
temperatures.
They don't want it to get above like 80 degrees or
Yeah,
too far above it anyway for any
yeah, and
extended
I think
time.
that's what's been my issue with them, unfortunately, because I do like them a lot, especially like the tiny little ones, little
Mm-hmm.
Pamelio and all that.
Uh-huh.
They're really cool, especially when they start breeding and you see them transporting around tadpoles and everything. It's
Yeah.
really neat. What did you keep as far as
Uh,
frogs?
I had tinks. I had two species of tinks. Or yeah, I had two species of tinks, and then oh, what are they called? The Aratus.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, they're cool. They're cool, but it's a whole different thing. Like Nick Mutton said, the Python's a lazy man's,
Oh,
pet.
for sure, for sure. And like I said, like dart frogs are easy in a different way. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to do. It's just the flies
Mm-hmm.
and then checking on them daily and feeding daily.
Yeah.
But that's not that hard. But it's just you got to pick what kind of care you like to do. And for me, with a very small group, I could do dart frogs, but to do that and expanding snakes, or even doing a lot of dart frogs, I couldn't do. It'd have to be just be one or two tanks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and the frogs too. It's the fruit flies get everywhere. And you end up
yeah,
with
they're a pain in the butt.
yeah, it's disgusting because all of a sudden you'll pull out a couch or something and if you find like, oh, there's, half of the fruit flies that I let go in that
Yeah,
cage went under the couch and died, and a spider made a web there. And,
yeah. I figured out a trap that took care of most of that issue for me, but I just took like a, a water or one of these guys,
hmm
little deli tub, and put like a film over top of it and poked a hole in it.
mm,
And then I filled it with apple cider vinegar. So they would crawl into it, die in the vinegar, and
nice.
it took care of most of that problem.
And they're attracted to the apple cider vinegar smell.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they went in there looking for food and they couldn't get out.
Nice. I wish I would have known that back when I was keeping them because, man,
But it didn't take care of all the problem, but
yeah,
took care
no,
of
they
90%
still
of
get
it.
everywhere, no matter how airtight you think your enclosure is,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's such a pain. And you can't make it airtight, but you try to minimize the holes. And, I remember putting painter's tape on some of the front opening enclosures I had. And,
Yep. That was another thing I did. I put a bead of silicone down, the seam in the exoteras. I put a bead of silicone down, and then just once it dried, I cut it so that
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, those flies are a pain. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah. I look forward to everything you got going on.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you do with your jungles too.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to buy more. That's the best part.
Oh, yeah, it is. I try not to.